Okay, so this is what we're going to make today. If you've seen my previous video, you'll know that this is inspired by Heather at Ruby and Pearl and Heather again at Rose Hill Cottage. I think it is Rose Hill Cottage. And it's my version of shabby chic. I can't do shabby, Ruby and Pearl shabby, and I can't do Rose Hill Cottage shabby or Luna Rose's shabby, much as I love them, but I can do my take on it. So we're going to start with a sheet of copy paper that I've printed, and I'm using Rachel and Bella Crafts again today, mostly just because it's here out on my desk. So the first, I've got the A4 set, and I'm going to cut the white edges off, and I'm going to end up with a piece that's 11 1/4, approximately 11 1/4 by 8. So there we are with it cut down. I've got 11 1/4 this way and 8 this way. The size isn't actually vital, and I know in the States you only have 11 inches. This width can be whatever you want it to be, as long as you can divide it by 3. So I'll leave that with you, but I'm going to start with 11 1/4. And the next thing I'm going to do is cover the inside of this. And I'm going to use some collage papers, again from Rachel and Bella. I've printed these on a very lightweight, a very lightweight, it's called layout paper here in the UK, and I think it's 50 GSM. I'm going to have to use 2 pieces, so I'm just going to cover this and then tear another piece off to go down the edge there. And I'm going to use glue stick to do this. It does take me a bit of time. I'll show you how I start. I don't do it all at once. So I try and go in a sort of straightish line. You won't be able to see on camera, but I can, in the light, I can see roughly where I've been. I want a good coating of glue, but I like glue stick because it leaves it relatively dry, and I can see where I might have gaps. It looks pretty good. Doesn't have to be perfect. So I'll pop this on, try and get it straight at the bottom. Just rub that piece down. And then I just go along a bit at a time. So the next bit, do another section. Torn off. So carry on like that. Find another piece here. Trim your edges again. Trim the white off, and let it dry, and then I'll come back and show you how we get started. So this is dry enough now to do the initial scoring. I'm going to turn it upside down because I want to do my front first. And you can see that it's 11 1/4. And I just did that. I just changed it all into eighths because this is an eighth. So I've got 90 eighths. So I want 30 eighths for each section. So that's 24, 28, 29, 30. So that would be 3 3/4. And then the same again, so 3 3/4. So that's the 3/4. 1, 2, 3. Just doing light scores at this stage, just to make sure I've got it right. And I basically want this to go into 3. Sometimes you just have to fiddle a bit, but you can see that that's about right. Okay, that's good. So this, I want this edge to be as even as possible, so I'm going to just pull that over. And then this is right on the fold line. So at this stage, I'm going to take a little sliver off. I don't want it to be right to the fold line. And then I'm just checking that we're, you know, pretty even, really. That's quite good. It doesn't always work out like that. Check it again. Right, I'm going to call that good. I don't mind that she's not central. We can add lace and things later on if we want to. Check that my folds and I've got no air bubbles and things like that. And we're good to go. Now, in my case, I am going to stitch a lot of this. If you're not stitching, if you don't enjoy stitching and you don't or don't have a sewing machine, the obvious thing is to make sure that your edges are glued. And I would ink. If I wasn't sewing, I would ink all my edges. Every fold, every edge on the inside and the outside. I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, I'm just literally going to take a hair's breadth. I feel like I haven't got quite enough there because we do want this to fold easily. So I'm just taking a little hair's breadth off there. It's also slightly wonky. And I don't know if you can see that, but I've got about a 1/16 of an inch, maybe a touch more. Something like an 1/8 to 1/16. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is the front flap. So let me go and get my pieces for that and then I'll be back. Okay, so I've got my image again from Nana's Roses. I hope I used the right kit name at the beginning of this video. It's Nana's Roses from Rach and Bella Crafts. I will put the link underneath anyway. So this is cut at 3 1/4 by 5. This one actually is slightly less than 5. But that's fine. As close to 5 as you can. So we're going to put an envelope on the other side. So, and then I've got a hinge which is about 1 inch wide. I've just cut that from a scrap bit of paper. You're not going to see it, so it doesn't matter. And the same height as your image or paper scrap, whatever you're using. So I'm just gluing this with a little bit of art glitter glue. I would tend to use a white glue for this because we don't want it to move, we want it to be strong. and I want it on the edge that's going to flip back, and I want my fold right on that edge. Okay, and then we're going to cover the inside of our flap. So it's going to go like this. So you want the inside of the flap covered, and I'm going to use another scrap of this paper. What are they called? Collage. They're again Rach and Bella Crafts. They're collage, vintage collage tear papers, printed on this very lightweight layout paper. That one there. I don't mind if it's slightly over the fold, because that'll make the you won't see any white if it's slightly, oops. I told you before, crafting and talking is not the best. Not for me anyway. Let's try and get those bubbles out. Supposed to be non-stick scissors, but they're not brilliant. I've got some Tim Holtz ones somewhere. I should get those out really. Okay. Just reinforce that fold. Got a little scrap there, which doesn't really matter, but I'm fussy. And that's going to go on there and open out. And I'm going to stick that on next, but before I stick it on, I'm going to get rid of that edge. I'm going to straight stitch around the four sides, keep that flap out and straight stitch around the four sides once it's dry. And then we're going to make an envelope to pop on the back here. So you will need to cut another sheet of printed paper, book page, whatever you want to use, at 6 inches by 6 3/4 inches. Right, so I've stitched my flap and I've glued it on here. You're not going to see this in the end, so don't worry about that. So that's our flap, and now we're going to make an envelope for the inside cover. So I've cut my piece of paper 6 3/4 by 6 this way, 6 3/4 this way. And on the 6-inch side, I've scored at 1 5/8 and 4 3/8. Turn it round to the 6 3/4, and that's 1 1/4 and 5 3/4. Okay. So now we're going to, hopefully you can see these corners. We're going to take the 4 corners out. Those 4 corners, and I'm going to try and cut on the inside, I guess, of the score lines that I've made. You can always tidy this up a little bit later if you get it not quite right. looked a bit long, but I think it's okay. This is going to fold into our coin envelope shape. And then it'll open up and there'll be a photograph in there, an image in there. So again, we're going to have to cover it. So I'm going to cover it with another sheet of layout paper, and then I'm going to round all of these corners. I've got this corner rounder, which I haven't got enough space to get it in there, but if you just fold those in, you'll be able to corner round. So I'm going to go away and do that bit. So I'm going to line the inside, round the corners, and then I'll be back. Okay, so this is dry and I've reinforced the folds with my bone folder, and I'm just going to glue this now into this front flap. Probably nice to choose a paper that you know, you don't mind losing this bit. Could make it into a pocket or another flap even, but I'm keeping it fairly simple. So that goes there, and I'm just shifting it slightly towards the outer edge just to give the folds more room. So that's that one. That'll dry quite quickly. And I've also cut my 3 pockets for the inside. So this one measures 3 1/4 by 5 1/4. This actually is a touch less because I used one of the images from the kit. But that's fine. So 3 1/4 by 5 1/4. What you need to make sure of is that it covers this piece here that you've put on. So I'm just going to use a little bit of glue on these, couple of these edges. And I'm making sure that that's right to the edge. Okay. So that's that one, pocket number 1. Pocket number 2 is 8 inches by 2 inches, and that's going to go in here. If it's slightly out, you can always trim it. This one I've stitched a zigzag down the front edge and a straight stitch down the back here. And this one, sorry, I'm actually gluing this piece in. I did my other one slightly differently, but I think this is a better version. So again, just bring it in a little bit from the fold line. Just to make sure that everything's got room to move. So that's glued just down that back edge. And that's because I don't want the stitching to show on the other side. And then this pocket is 3 inches by 3 1/2 inches. And that's going to go on here, but not yet. I'm actually going to glue this one in after I've done the other stitching. So what happens next is that we zigzag around from the outside, all around this. You can see I just need to trim that. So we zigzag right round this edge, making sure that's open, down here and along. So I'm going to go away and do that, then I'll come back and we'll be ready to do the ephemera pieces. So that's all stitched round, and obviously it's caught the pockets in, so these 2 pockets are done. So we'll just glue this one in. So just a thin bead of glue around 3 edges. I'll pop it into the outer edge. Okay, so that's as far as I'm going to go in this video. So this is part 1 of this little craft with me tutorial, whatever you like to call it. But if you want to come back for part 2, we'll make all the bits to go inside and I'll show you how I manage the ribbon. Okay, thank you for watching.